Nudge Theory and Bridges Transition Model by
Liz Dunn,
Nicole Lee,
Alex Macias,
Monica Mora,
Kelvin Tan,
and Tom Whitehead.
Nudge theory was originally proposed in the field of behavioral economics rather than change management, having been defined and popularized by Cass R. Sunstein and Richard H. Taylor. Sunstein was a U.S. economics law academic at the University of Chicago with an additional interest in behavioral economics. His co-author Taylor was also a professor of behavioral science and economics at the University of Chicago. However, the principles of nudge theory were in fact first developed by Daniel Kahneman, an Israeli-American psychologist and winner of the 2002 Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences, as well as Amos Nathan Tversky, an Israeli psychologist and longtime collaborator of Daniel Kahneman. The central concept of nudge theory lies in that people can be nudged into making the right choice without coercion. Taylor and Sunstein use the term libertarian paternalism as a name for the underpinning philosophy. Libertarian refers to the freedom that people should have in making their own choices, while paternalism refers to the user's responsibility for the people. Nudge principles and techniques are now increasingly significant in communications, marketing, and the motivation of groups.
Not considered a full-fledged change management model, and best used in conjunction with another model, nudge theory provides a framework to get employees to own the change process and get their engagement, commitment, and support. It allows employees to identify the need for change for themselves and participate in the change process, thus making resistance less likely. As the nudge theory's central idea is to indirectly influence individuals without taking their freedom of choice, the model discourages forcing employees to change through strict orders and directions. It is about providing choices and cultivating an enabling environment that encourages employees to change their behavior. A nudge is essentially an action that is indirect, subtle, open-ended, educational, backed up with evidence, optional, and open to discussion. Examples of nudges are a person using a smaller plate for portion control rather than counting calories to lose weight, or a city improving the availability and visibility of trash cans to reduce littering instead of erecting signs saying "no littering" and warning of fines.
The nudge theory change model is a 7-step process which enacts bottom-up change by defining the needed change, then constructing a choice architecture, or creating an environment which will influence a group or individual to choose to make changes in their behavior. Successful change is achieved by considering the individual's point of view when planning change suggestions. Those change suggestions are provided by way of a nudge and are voluntary, enabling individuals to keep a sense of ownership over their choices. Nudges should be presented clearly and never be misleading. For every nudge, there should be evidence which supports the belief that the suggested change will be personally beneficial to those being changed. When planning nudges, care should be taken to limit or remove obstacles to change. Nudges should be adaptable and able to compensate for changing types and levels of resistance. Finally, there should be short-term goals or wins to anchor the changes in behavior. Let's take a look at nudge theory in action. In the Republic of Turkey, Procter & Gamble wanted to increase the market share of their product, very concentrated liquid soap. Studies showed consumers typically used more soap than needed, and that consumers believed diluted soap, because of its larger container, was a better value. The needed change? Get consumers to rethink their behavior by communicating that small can be powerful. To achieve this, Procter & Gamble implemented a series of 3 nudges in the form of an advertising campaign. First, television commercials showing that a single bottle of fairy soap could clean twice as much as the diluted soap. Second, celebrities were used in the ads to increase their influence. Finally, other advertisements centered on the reduced environmental impact when correctly using the concentrated soap. After 6 years, Procter & Gamble were able to achieve a 45% market share with the fairy brand alone, and nationwide consumption of liquid soap was reduced by 5%, even though total population increased by 6%. That is a powerful change.
William Bridges was educated at Harvard, Columbia, and Brown University. He was highly influenced by Ralph Waldo Emerson, the American tradition of pragmatic philosophy, and the writings on the spiritual rites of passage by ethnographer Arnold van Gennep. Bridges taught American literature at Mills College in the 1960s and took a sabbatical to explore humanistic psychology. He retired from teaching in 1974 and went on to become a preeminent authority on transition and change. As an author, speaker, and consultant, he transformed the way people thought and acted through a change process. His research provided a new approach to guide individuals and organizations, focusing on the transitions that go along with a major change. In 1980, he wrote the book Transitions: Making Sense of Life's Changes, with focuses on helping individuals deal with the difficult times in their lives. He suggested that individuals not rush through the stages of change, and he believed that change is situational and transition is psychological. William Bridges Associates was founded in 1985 to help leaders and individuals better understand and manage the personal and human side of change. He launched professional seminars, which have certified thousands of managers, trainers, and consultants worldwide in a variety of industries to conduct transition management programs. In 1991, he wrote Managing Transitions: Making the Most of Change after his experience working with different companies and organizations. The book focused on organizations going through major changes like restructuring, layoffs, mergers, and acquisitions, while demonstrating to managers and employees the consequences of ignoring the transitions that accompany those changes.
A key feature of Bridges' transition model is the differentiation between change and transition. Change is the external event or situation taking place, and transition is the internal psychological processes people undergo in response to change. Bridges asserts that successful change requires leaders to support individuals as they go through the accompanying, often emotional transition process, and the transition model focuses on managing that transition. There are 3 stages. Bridges asserts that, paradoxically, all transition starts with an ending. Accordingly, the first transition stage is endings, where people mourn what they are losing in the change. The second stage, the neutral zone, is the period in between when the old reality and identity is shed and the new one is fully formed and functioning. This liminal space can be disorienting, but also offers opportunities for creativity and discovery. Finally, new beginnings involves actualizing a new sense of identity and moving in a new direction. There's lots of momentum here as people adopt new values and understandings. There are numerous strategies used to manage transition throughout each of these 3 stages. Managing endings involves identifying who is losing what and letting them grieve and communicating information about upcoming changes. To manage the neutral zone, one should establish temporary work systems to mitigate confusion, encourage creativity and experimentation, and assemble a transition monitoring team. And finally, to launch new beginnings, one must communicate the purpose of the change, paint a picture of the new organizational identity, create a detailed transition management plan, give everyone a part to play in the proposed changes, and reinforce the new beginning through consistent messaging, motivational small wins, and celebrating the arrival at the organization's desired destination.
Butler University Library needed to adopt a cloud-based integration system. They hired a consulting team who used a change style assessment and paired it with Bridges' transition model by reading Managing Change weekly in a book club format so the team would be able to process the emotional and psychological transition of the disruption to their normal routines, also providing the individuals with a support system of transition jargon. A pre and post mitigation of their internal reflections were marked on the transition model chart to determine their status and provide the team with the knowledge to design strategies specific to the individual change style approaches in self-reflected stages. In the endings was the ability to identify laggers who needed constant vision reinforcement. In the neutral zone, there was emphasis on collaboration and physical task realignment of staffing. Finally, in the new beginnings, there was completion of timelines, weekly updates, and online tutorials. The results were extremely effective. University Prost invited the library to host and present their transition management and progress to the Board of Trustees at a luncheon.
Both the nudge theory and Bridges model are models that, interestingly, focus on the psychology of the individual. Nudge theory looks into how people can be prompted to make the right choices, while Bridges model focuses on the psychological transitions that accompany a person during change. To enhance your understanding of these models and facilitate a group discussion, please answer discussion prompt A and either prompt B or C. Thanks for listening.